Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of First Impressions on the Scratch the Track podcast, presented by the Dude and Grim Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I'm the Dude.
And I am Grim, and today we are going to give our first impressions of Intercepted Message by the Osees. Osees, they go by a lot of names. So, spoiler alert, I liked it. Enough where I went and picked it up.
Woo! Not wasting any time on that one.
Well, as soon as it came out, I probably listened to the thing like, I don't know, 5 to 10 times. And,
so you were you knew this was coming out. Like you were like waiting for it.
I actually didn't.
Okay.
Because the Osees, this is their 27th, by the way.
I know. I read that.
Studio album.
Crazy.
Yeah, they have a lot of stuff out there.
For the money.
Well, and they've been around a lot longer, so they should have,
true.
a lot out. But I've listened to most of what they have out, and there's a handful of them where I'm like, I'm going to get this one. But this one, to me, it was not that they haven't used synthesizers before, but the way that they kind of put everything together was a little different to me. And I felt like this album went into more places in one collection than they had before.
Yeah. That's what I was gonna ask you, because I've listened to a few other things, but I'm not exactly as well versed in them. So this is definitely like a very first impression for me. And that's what I was gonna say is like, because what I've heard, I don't remember it being quite as synth heavy, having sort of like this 80s feel. 80s, dude, it's a weird mix of sounds. It's like an 80s heavy synth, punk rock infused.
I know.
Dude, you want to know what it actually, especially like the first couple of tracks where like the synth is the first thing that really stands out. I'm just like, sure. It hits you. Dude, it sounded like some Emerson, Lake and Palmer, like synth sound. Like,
interesting the way that comes in on Stunner. Yeah.
And it really starts off rocking, and I've listened to it probably 2.5 times through. I've really enjoyed it. I would say with each listen, the first one, he's kind of getting used to it, trying to figure out where they're coming from, but, or where this album's coming from. But yeah, man, I dig it. I like the cover too, man. It looks like all these patch cables or synth cables going into like a skull or something. Yeah. It's pretty cool.
Now it says for one of these songs, The Fish Needs a Bike, says it's a Blurt cover. Now, I don't know anything about Blurt, or if indeed that is a cover, or if that's just some funny part of the title. I do like The Fish Needs a Bike, not necessarily lyrically, because it's pretty one-dimensional. He's just really establishing that need for the bike. But I like the sound of it. It's just got this weird, thick kind of... the sound I really like.
It's funny you say that, man, because as I was going through and listening to it, I was like, man, this might be my scratch already.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because again, lyrically, like just the repetitiveness of it kind of started to annoy me. And I was just like, oh man, I don't know if this one's quite doing it for me. Now, maybe I just need to, really delve deep into it, probably examine the lyrics.
I think so. You might want to read the sheet next time.
Definitely.
Now this album has of course come to positive, but mixed reviews from what I've seen. And
kind of like our show.
Yeah. I get it. Sometimes it's interesting because I've been guilty of this myself with stuff, but when this album came out, I figure you're talking about a band who's on number 27. Really anything is possible and acceptable at this point. They could come out with a 90s gangster rap album for all anyone knows. But I guess when I heard it, I certainly wasn't in any way disappointed, because to me, the possibility of what it could be was an open book. But it sounds like some critics were just not as into that idea. But it's like they can't do the same thing that they've done
Yeah. So John Dwyer, essentially, they have, as you've noted, many different formations of their name.
Yes.
And he's said that he has intentionally done that basically to mess with the press. And so I got to say, like, man, when you're doing stuff like that, you're probably going to piss some people off. They probably will just, give you harsh reviews and stuff like that just on that alone. Or people go into it being like, yeah, I'm not going to like this. So it's harder to win them over. But I do see that, like, I think Metacritic actually, it's like an 84 or something out of, and that's solid. That's a solid review. So
solid B,
solid B, which, dude, is like me as a student. I am a solid B.
It's on the optimistic end. Yeah,
that's what I strived for. I was like, I'm not going to study. I'm just going to show up to the class, ace the projects, and do the homework and fail all the tests, and I'm okay with that. So, I mean, look at me now.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing I've noticed is in all the track listings for this, except if you listen to it digitally, they only list that there's 11 songs. The last one being this funny thing called LAWP Hold, which I looked up, and that's just the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power, because they're based out of Los Angeles, which makes sense because it sounds like hold music. Yeah. And that's not listed, and it's also not listed on the track listing on the vinyl, in the little sleeve that's inside, or on the record itself. But then I looked, and you notice that there's the extra really short groove at the end for that.
And so is there like a gap, or does it go from like Always at Night right into
just
track?
like it goes. Okay. I mean, there's enough of a gap where you can see it's an additional song, but it's not like a hidden track where it would go for like 5 minutes, nothing like that.
Okay, I gotcha. Well, that is interesting, and the song before, Always at Night, when I heard it. So, and I think maybe I said this to you the other day. I was like, man, it really reminds me of a song. There's something about it. And I figured it out. And it's actually, I believe, the song After the Gold Rush by Neil Young. The way in Always at Night, they sing, in this song, they sing 1983. Yeah. And then after the Gold Rush, he sings in the 1970s.
Oh, yeah.
And I know it has to do with years, but the way they both sing those parts, it sounds very similar to me. And even, I mean, this does not sound like After the Gold Rush as far as like the song itself. It has this really like long drawn out synth sound. It reminds me like something you'd hear like out of a John Hughes movie. I
was just going to say that it could have been on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So. It is interesting because now you can argue that with like the synth, you hear echoes of a lot of different phases of music, but this takes a complete like 180 degree turn and goes complete 80s like shoegaze. Which is interesting. It's just it's an interesting little turn, and it's the longest song on the album. Yeah. So.
It is. I mean, it's over 7 minutes. Yeah, it's sizable. But dude, this whole album does to me has a lot of like, it does have that 80s kind of feel. Yeah. Even has some of the some like even lyrically in the way they sing some parts has almost like these 80 vocal gimmicks that, lyricists and bands would put in their songs and stuff. And yeah, it's been a very interesting listen. Yeah. There's some catchy stuff on it for sure. And I think I'll keep checking it out. And, all the songs, I mean, dude, you can get through it. The album itself is just a little over 40 minutes. Yeah. And that's with a long song at 7 minutes. But everything else is pretty much like, comes in at 2 or 3 minutes for the most part. So you can rip through the album. It's not like anything drags out. So.
No, it's interesting because there's on some of their previous albums, they've got ones with like 15 minute song, they just kind of, and that's what I like is they just sort of do whatever they want to do. And I see why people can sometimes draw a parallel between them and King Giz, really, because it's sort of a niche fan base. They're very prolific in terms of how much they put out and what they put out. And it has just like King Giz, it's got a feel to it. And it's like, you could kind of expect it when you hear the band. I didn't become aware of this band until 2017 when Orc came out.
Yeah, I remember you talking about that album and liking it as well.
You got that album? No, I don't. I did that. I need to get that one in Face Stabber, but I don't have them yet. Face Stabber. But this one I would highly recommend. clearly I like it. I want to say one thing. The song Die Laughing is almost like this nice kind of like a real dancey kind of synth groove. And it reminds me as if like they just gave R2D2 a synth and they were like, all right, you're going to solo on this. And it's just all these like, well,
it's, no, it definitely has that track also. And I had this in my notes as well, dude. A lot of the rhythm and beats and percussion really reminded me of like something off Talking Heads, like Remain in Light.
Oh, like sure.
Sort of that weird sort of choppiness and stuff. Like it just the rhythm and the beats of the song, the beat of the song really reminded me of that a lot. Beats. So much, in fact, I listened to Remain in Light yesterday. I was like, oh,
nice.
Cool. I
thought about it yesterday.
I mean, it's still a good day.
But
so, all right, man. Does that wrap this up?
It does. Check it out. I highly recommend it. The dude seems like he's a positive, but probably not as enthusiastic as a recommendation.
Yeah, dude, I would highly recommend listening to it. And you'll probably, I have a feeling someone who just put this on, who'd never listened to them, you put it on, and I think right away you're probably either going to like it or you're not going to like it.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's probably where I would stand.
Now I can tell you, like many things that come out nowadays, they had very many different variations of colors and special editions. I think there's at least like 5 of them that are different colors.
What did you get?
I got the only one that they had at my local record store, Vertigo
Classic Black
Music, Classic Black.
Ugh, dude, classic. No, I'm just kidding.
I looked for other ones, but this is what they had, and I was like, I'm kind of just more interested in getting the record.
They didn't have any swirl. They didn't have any splatter.
No splatter. No splatter. No like halves. No halves.
No, didn't go halvesies, huh?
Yeah, right. No halvesies. It still sounds the same.
Well, that's good. That's probably the most important part, right? But
yeah.
All right. I think that wraps it up here.
Yeah. Check it out. Time to go.
The Dude
Grim Show. Scratch a Track is produced by The Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by Moore and the Tins. Copyright 2023. The Dude and Grim Show.